Ladies and gentlemen, it is lovely when I get a chance to talk to a legend, which I have at this very moment, because on the other end of this phone is Colin Blunstone. Colin, how are you?
I'm very well, Lee. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, I'm great, thank you.
The Zombies are a band for me who, well, they were just so different to a lot of the bands that were around at that time. And what is even more amazing is now you are back together. Rod Argent, yourself, Hugh Grundy, Chris White, and you're going back to where it all began. That's amazing, isn't it?
It is incredible, isn't it? There's going to be sort of a weekend celebration of the Zombies in St. Albans, starting on Friday the 10th of November. And there will be various happenings from the evening of Friday the 10th, and then on the 11th and on the 12th. So we'll be celebrating the music of the Zombies, and also we'll be celebrating St. Albans, which is the city that brought us together. Although we weren't all born and bred there, we all went to school there, and that's the connection with the Zombies. We all went to school in St. Albans, and that's where we first performed. All our early gigs were in and around St. Albans.
The tracks that came out in the 60s, those brilliant tracks, I mean, things like She's Not There and Time of the Season, they have been covered, they've been done by so many different people. They are not of their time, though, because they are almost timeless, aren't they?
I think that's right, and it's such a great compliment to give to the writers, in particular Rod Argent and Chris White. They wrote these wonderful songs that sound as fresh and as relevant today as they did when they were first recorded. And because of that, these songs are constantly being used in films and in television series, which helps to keep the idea of the Zombies alive. Actually, I'm not quite sure if you can keep zombies alive, but you know what I mean. It's just been wonderful. All the covers we've had, the TV shows that we've had, and the films of these great songs. Not just She's Not There in Time of the Season, others as well.
Yeah. Those are the ones that sort of jump out at you all the time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I mean, there's also some beautiful albums that the band produced, or you've produced, over the times.
Well, I mean, the last album that we recorded, Odyssey and Oracle, Rolling Stone named it as one of the top 100 albums of all time, which if you just stop to think of how many albums are released each week, it's a phenomenal compliment to have been named as one of the top albums of all time. And there were 12 tracks on there, all written by Rod Argent and Chris White. They're just such great writers.
Where did the influences for the band come from? Because, I mean, when you listen to it, there's a sort of elements of blues, soul, but there's also elements of jazz as well as rock.
Well, it's funny. I think one of the things that made the Zombies different was the fact that our musical influences came from such a wide spectrum of music, from classical music to modern jazz to the blues, rhythm and blues, and rock and roll, and probably a few other types of music in between there as well. And it did make the Zombies sound different. Now, this is really a good thing to have. You sound different, but it can also be a little bit of a weakness, because in the music industry, people love to categorize you.
Yes.
So magazines will play, rock and roll or progressive something. And if you don't fit into a category, which often I felt we didn't, it could sometimes be a little bit of a disadvantage. It's just kind of a contradiction in terms. You've got this unique sound that makes you stand out, and because of that unique sound, you may lose out on some media coverage because you don't fit into a category.
That's the one thing I did love about the Zombies, or I do love about the Zombies, is you can't put them in a box, which I think is great.
I think we would always prefer to be like that. We never followed trends. We never deliberately tried to be commercial. We just tried to do our best with what came naturally. And I think most of the bands that have been successful over a long period of time did the same thing.
With the show, or an evening with, an afternoon with, a weekend with, the festival.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. It's not just yourselves, because there are little bits by individual members of the band as well, aren't there?
I know there are. I mean, unfortunately, Rod Argent is not very well at the moment, and I don't think he's going to be able to be there. And of course, he would have been a major part of the weekend. But I'm certainly going to be there. And Chris White, the original bass player from the Zombies, is going to be there. And Hugh Grundy, who was the original drummer. And then there'll be members there of the current band, the second incarnation of the Zombies, if you like. They will be there as well. On Friday night, I'm going to be playing some tunes with Tom Toomey, who's the guitarist in the current band. So that's going to be fun. And I know Chris is going to give a talk about songwriting, and Hugh Grundy and our current drummer, Steve Rodford, are going to be talking about the differences in drumming techniques and so forth. There's going to be a book signing. They've printed a sort of a zombie map, so that people want to have a walk around this beautiful city of St. Albans, but spotting en route various places that are relevant to the story of the Zombies, and they can do that if they want as well. And they're going to be playing the Zombies documentary at the Odyssey Cinema on Saturday morning. The documentary is called Hung Up on a Dream, and it's actually being played at the Barbican Saturday tomorrow. So it's been shown all around the world, and hopefully eventually it will be played by a major station, Netflix or something like that. But they're in the process of getting some sort of deal together at the moment.
The thing with the Zombies, though, is it is still a working, gigging unit. It's not as though the band has sort of fallen apart and you're trying to drag it out of the mire. It still exists, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We've literally just come back from America. I got back from America Saturday morning, been over there for 4 or 5 weeks playing all over the country. We played down the West Coast, all the way across the country, and then played down the East Coast. And we do, one of the strange things with the Zombies is that we do mostly play abroad, and as such we're managed by an American company. So it's always a pleasure when we come back here and do things here, because we all live here. Well, except our new bass player actually lives in Denmark now, come to think of it. But most of us live here. And so it's great for us to play here. And there's talk of us actually doing a national tour next spring. Not confirmed, but I'm hoping that we do it. Yes, it is a touring band that's very active to this day. And we've got 2 original members, Rod Argent, the keyboard player and principal writer in the band, and myself, who I was the lead vocalist in the original band.
Yeah.
2 original members, and then 3 guys who've joined us over the years, who are all wonderful musicians.
When you go out on stage, when you're performing, doesn't matter where it is, do you still get the same buzz?
I do, very much so, and I think that's why musicians keep playing. And I think Bob would say the same thing. Absolutely do get the same buzz, and very often now, particularly in America, we do get incredible reception when we come on stage, because there are so few bands from the 60s that are still playing live, especially writing and recording new material. And we just had a new album out called Different Game in the spring, and it was incredibly well received and did actually get into the sales charts. There are so many different charts, but in terms of just sales, our album got in quite high up in America. It came in at 35 in America, and I think 15 or 16 here. In the sales charts, that doesn't cover streaming and downloading. So that was wonderful after all these years to get that kind of response.
But this is it, isn't it? I mean, a band like the Zombies, if there is another band, I don't think there is, that are still performing, still recording, still creating new material. It's not as though you're just regurgitating stuff you recorded before. This is all new, isn't it?
Absolutely. And on that last tour when we were in the States, we played 4 new songs from the brand new album. And it's really heartening, because the reaction on those new songs, and of course people are not so familiar with the new songs as they are with the classic hits, but the reaction is just as strong on the new songs. And, it's really heartening. And I think one of the things we'd all like to do, I know we've just released an album, but we quite like to start writing and recording for a new album, because albums take a while to be completed. It'll probably take at least a year, maybe 18 months for an album to be finished. So I think the sooner we start, the better, really. And it's great to always be thinking about the future. Even, we realise we're in the autumn of our careers, to say the least. But it's always what's energised us to think about what comes next, rather than keep going back over all the old stuff all the time.
You do festivals as well as doing sort of town halls and things like that. But what lights you up the most? Is it sort of getting out on a huge stage and a massive festival with thousands of people, or is it those small, slightly more intimate gigs?
Well, I tell you what I really enjoy and that's the variety of it. Of course, playing on a big stage to thousands of people, it's an incredible lift when you walk on stage. The sound of the audience and the spirit of the audience really lifts you, and that's a wonderful experience. But it's a totally different experience to play in a small, intimate club where the audience are right on top of you. To some extent, you do have to adapt your show, but it's just as thrilling, but in a different way. And that's what I really enjoy, is the variety of different venues. And with the Zombies, that's certainly true. We do sometimes play quite small, intimate places. And then, of course, we play the biggest festivals in the world as well.
Now, you've recently been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's an honour, isn't it?
It's an incredible honour. I think it's a prestigious honour all around the world, but particularly in America. Much is made of people who are inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And just to give you a taste of the actual evening itself, it was 2019 at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, and there were 7 artists inducted, and amongst them were Stevie Nicks, Janet Jackson, Def Leppard, Radiohead, Roxy Music, and The Cure, and us. And it was just a magical evening. And 17,000 people, the great and the mighty of the music industry are in the first few rows. So when you look out, I remember Mick Fleetwood was right in front of me in the audience. When you look out, you're seeing some of your heroes sitting out there in the audience. So it's funny because I know it could make you feel quite anxious being in a situation like that, but it's so well organized. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every moment of it. It was thrilling, exciting, fulfilling, all those words. And we ended up with Def Leppard basically playing All the Young Dudes, and I was doing backup vocals with Susanna Hoss from the Bangles, Little Stephen from the East Street Band, and Rod Argent from the Zombies. What a wonderful experience. It was absolutely brilliant.
See, I love things like that, when bands just get together and basically have a good time. I mean, to me, that's what it should be about.
I mean, it is good fun. Sometimes it can get a little bit scary because we didn't really rehearse to do that. I think we might have played it through once beforehand. But, I mean, everyone knows the title line of All the Young Dudes, but I can't say that I really knew that song that well.
No.
And I went out on stage and sang my bit in front of 17,000 people, and I thought, I don't believe this is happening. It's an incredible experience.
Oh, fantastic. Look, Colin, thank you so much for sparing me the time. I really appreciate it. And
it's been fantastic having a chat, Lee, and I've really enjoyed it, mate.
Great. We look forward to hearing more new stuff from the Zombies, and we wish you well with the Beginning Here Festival. And don't work too hard, will you?
No, I definitely. I think we'll be keeping things under control work-wise in the future. As I said, we're in the autumn of our career now, so we've got to take care of ourselves a little bit. But thanks very much for your best wishes, and hopefully this will be the first St Albans Festival of many. I think they're quite hoping it will be an annual affair. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Brilliant. Thank you once again for your time.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Bye-bye now.